Do you think that writing a book takes too much time? Guess what? Time may not be the issue. It may not be the issue at all. Instead, you may be struggling with all the hidden decisions that drain your momentum before you even begin.
Pour a cup of clarity, sip a spark of insight. Coffee with Karma, your morning feels just right.
Writing becomes easier the moment your brain stops carrying the load. And what do I mean by this? When you don't get clear and plan out your book in advance, your brain has to carry the entire process on its back. And that leads to overwhelm, procrastination, and all sorts of other productivity disorders. A clear framework lightens the load because it creates safety, it frees up focus, and helps you move forward more consistently. Even if the decisions you make up front end up being changed in the process, it still makes it easier to move forward. So, in today's episode of Coffee with Karma, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 productivity tips or principles, actually, that may totally change the game for you. Hi, my name is Carma Spence, and I help established business and leadership experts write, publish, and market client attracting books that elevate their authority and drive business growth. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video, share it with others, comment below, and subscribe to my channel so that the YouTube algorithm understands that this video and others like it are for people like you who want to grow their business with books. Now let's get to principle number 1. A book moves forward faster when you reduce the number of decisions required to work on it. Structure is a time saver, not a constraint. And what do I mean by this? Yes, I am talking about an outline. And I'm not talking about the outlines that we learned when we were in grade school, where you have to do the capital I and then the capital A and then the lowercase I and the lowercase a. Although you can use that system if it works for you. What I'm saying here is get clear on what the book needs to cover by chapter. And then if you want to get more detail than that, you can. You don't have to, but have a framework or a structure in mind. For example, when I was writing Public Speaking Superpowers, I actually published my outline to kind of help to hold myself accountable. I said, it's going to start with an introduction, and then part 1's going to cover these kinds of superpowers. Part 2 is going to cover these kind of superpowers, and part 3 is going to cover these, and and then I gave like a 1 sentence description of what that chapter was going to cover. And that was it. That's all I needed. Now, while I was writing the book, and I got about halfway through, I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm missing a key chapter here. And so I added it to the outline and wrote it, and we moved forward. Outlines change and evolve and grow while you're writing the book. But because I had that outline, once I started writing that book, bing, I got it done. It only took me a couple of weeks to write that. And the only reason it took me that long is because I had other things going on at the same time. And I based the entire book on notes from interviews. So I had to transcribe the interviews and organize the topics and what they said and all that kind of stuff. That was extra stuff. Now, if you're just writing it from your brain, it might be faster. That's why in my Road Trip to Authority program, I allow 3 weeks for writing, and I just let you write, and I give you a tip a day in case you get stuck. And of course, there's weekly calls, so you always have me if you get stuck and those tips don't help. But even though the program itself is 16 weeks long, writing is only 3 of those 16 weeks. Because The 4 weeks that happen before those 3 weeks is all creating the decisions that you need to make before you start writing so that writing is easier and faster. And this is principle number 1. Have a plan. Make the decisions before you start writing so that you don't have to make them while you're writing. Principle number 2. Setting micro milestones builds psychological safety. Small wins tell your mind that you're not behind, you're building. So, set yourself some milestones, but make them easily achievable ones so that you get consistent wins. Now, those mini milestones lead to larger milestones. Yes. So, for example, let's say we're going to be driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles. Mini milestones along the way might be all the rest stops along the way, although there is a really long stretch with with no no rest stops. Now that said, so for example, when I was living in LA and I'd be driving up north because my mom lives up north. I'm well, at one time my parents lived up north and then my dad died, so then he didn't live up north. Anyway, that's beside the point. My husband and I would get into the car and our goal was to reach this one summit. So, like, there's this you go uphill, uphill, and then there's, like, a summit, and there's a hotel there, and there's a couple of restaurants, and then you go over the hill and down the hill a little bit, and there's all the outlet stores. So, our goal was to reach that summit by a specific time, and we would leave at this time, and we knew that if we left at this time, we could hit that summit by that time, and that was our goal. We often stopped along the way because, bio breaks happen, but that was our first goal. That was only a couple of hours into what was basically an 8 to 10-hour drive. Our next goal was to hit our favorite restaurant. There was this one restaurant, and I'm seeing it in my head. There's only 2 of them. There's one in this one spot along that freeway, and then there's one in Solvang, and I have pictures from it. It's a German restaurant, and I can't think of what the name of it is. Anyway, beside the point. You see, we had these like mini miles. I mean, our end goal was to get to my mom's house, but we had these mini goals along the way. And when we hit those goals at specific times, we knew, okay, we are making progress. We're doing good. Do the same with your book. Do the same with your book. And then every time you hit one of those goals, have a little celebration. You know, get up and do a little happy dance, or get on your exercise cycle, or go up and hug your spouse or your kids or your cat. Do something that's pleasurable, breaks what you're doing up so that you're not just all work all the time, because believe me, I know how that is. And then that makes those milestones even more pleasant. So let's get to principle number 3. Your book becomes easier to manage when tasks are defined by size, not mood. Structure turns from when I feel like it to I know exactly what to do next. This is another reason why an outline is really important because you know exactly what needs to happen next. It's not like I'm feeling the muse. And this is where I talk about turtle author and rabbit author. Rabbit author writes whenever the mood strikes and the muse is talking, thing. A muse likes a plan. So what turtle author does is he plans. He plans it out, he outlines, and he methodically moves forward. That's why turtle wins the race. Now what happens? Because turtle author and rabbit author are not separate authors. We all have our own inner turtle and our inner rabbit. And when turtle author leads, rabbit author flows. Because what happens is turtle author creates the safe space and the structure that allows rabbit author to add in the sparkly magic pixie dust. They work together. They work together. But if you leave turtle author at home, Rabbit author leads, and everything becomes chaos, and your book does not get done. Now, principle number 4, a stable environment, physical or digital, reduces context switching, one of the biggest productivity killers. This is why I've talked about in the past about like having a ritual space. So you've got your book writing space, and it may be exactly the same space that you use to do everything else, right? I mean, this computer I'm using to record this, this is where I write my books, this is where I create my programs, this is where I talk to clients. It's everything. But how do I switch from coffee with karma mode to any other mode? There's a ritual. So, for example, to go switch into coffee with karma mode, I've got my coffee with karma mug. To switch in author mode, I close all my tabs and I get into my digital space where my book lives because I have a little folder where all my book stuff lives for whatever book I'm working on. And there's usually like a little something in my physical environment that I switch to signal my brain, this is book time. So you want to create this stable, book focused environment, physical or digital, whatever's going to tell your brain, because your brain's not my brain and my brain ain't your brain. We all have different brains, which is, as a side note, one of the reasons why I can't stand the term neurodiverse, because that is humanity. We're all neurodiverse. No two brains are the same. Anyway, off that, off that pedestal. Find what works for you so that you can switch that author switch in your brain and say, this is book time. I'm focusing on my book right now. This helps productivity so much because you get into your book writing mode. Principle number 5, when you trust your system, you stop wasting time reinventing the process every week. So create your system. You've got your plan. You've set your micro goals. You have defined the size of your working space, your working time, and you've created a stable environment in which to write your book. Trust the system you've built. Give it several weeks, give it a month, give it a quarter of trying to do that same system you built. What happens that way is you find places where the system doesn't work. You jot them down. And then after a set period of time, you've found all the little breaky parts, you fix them and you reiterate. You do it again. But you have to use the system for at least a month for you to get into flow, because sometimes those little breaky spots that you find maybe the first couple of times you use your system aren't actually breaky spots. They're you getting used to your system. So trust your system, give it time to settle in and get into the flow. Jot down what you think are the breaky spots and fix them after you've been in your system for a little while. There you go. 5 productivity principles that will help you get better at finding the time and using the time to write your book effectively. I will be back next episode with 3 easy habits that keep your book moving forward. This is Carma Spence saying, ciao for now.